Think about what 99 cents can buy you. That list is probably pretty short, but right now, a 99 cents can get you 4 weeks of the Washington Post. That's with our new subscription deal. This is a rate you can lock in for a full year. That's right, you can get all of the Post's amazing journalism for just 99 cents every 4 weeks. Subscribing now tells us that the work that you listen to here is something you value. If you've thought about becoming a subscriber for a while, now is the moment. This deal expires June 3rd. So hit pause and go to the subscription link in our show notes or to washingtonpost.com/subscribe. In a few minutes, you'll have more of what's happening in the world right at your fingertips. And another perk, if you go to the Washington Post app or visit our website, almost every story we publish is one that you can listen to. Again, this incredible offer only goes until June 3rd, so you won't want to miss it. We're so excited to welcome you as a subscriber. And thank you. Now, here's today's show.
Hey, this is Ben Brash. I'm standing outside the courtroom in the Fulton County Superior Courthouse here in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. And court has wrapped for the day. In the YSL case. It was a pretty
Ben Brash is a general assignment reporter for The Post, and he was in Atlanta recently because he's been following a massive and historic case, the trial of the rap artist Young Thug and his music label YSL. The trial is on track to be the longest-running criminal case ever in Georgia. Jury selection took over 10 months before opening arguments began. In total, the trial has been going on for almost a year and a half. And at the center of this trial is Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams. He's a 32-year-old Grammy Award-winning rapper, and he's helped solidify Atlanta as an epicenter of rap.
We have one of the most notable hip-hop artists in the world on trial. We had to see what was going on. He's sitting in a Fulton County courtroom, and he is on trial and facing some serious charges.
A lot of things make this trial complicated. One being a special law in Georgia that has allowed prosecutors to not just charge Young Thug, but several members of his rap group. Over 20 people were indicted. And the case has huge implications for rap music because it's not just Young Thug on trial, but his lyrics too.
This could have huge consequences for Atlanta's multi-billion-dollar rap scene and for Black artistic expression in general. And that doesn't even take into account the potential decades of prison time for Williams and his co-defendants.
From the newsroom of the Washington Post, this is Post Reports. I'm Elahe Izadi. It's Tuesday, May 21st. Today, the dramatic trial of Young Thug, and what the outcomes could mean not just for a group of Atlanta rappers, but for all musicians. Ben, before we get into the details of the trial, can you just tell me a little bit more about who Young Thug is and his background? Tell us, where did he grow up and what was his trajectory toward fame?
So Jeffrey Lamar Williams was born one of 11 children on Cleveland Avenue, which is a fairly impoverished, underfunded part of the city of Atlanta. And he had a hard life growing up. Again, being one of 11 kids without a lot of money is tough. From there, he released his first mixtape in 2011, I Came From Nothing. And from there, it's been a meteoric rise. In 2012, Thug co-founded YSL, which was his label. And he records music under that label, and he is by far the largest name in that label. This is someone who's been accepted by the music industry. Everyone from Drake to Elton John to Childish Gambino, fellow Atlantan with whom he won that Grammy. He presents himself in a very interesting way. On the cover of one of his albums, he was wearing this haute couture dress from Alessandro Trincon. And for him to show up with his 6'2" frame with like all this flowy stuff on it is just so notable. And the music is worth paying attention to, but also visually, he just makes it so you cannot not pay attention to him.
So he became really famous pretty quickly after he started putting out music. Can you tell me more about the sound of the music? Because I think some people might think, oh, hip hop is, it's East Coast, West Coast, but he was coming from Atlanta, which was a place where a lot of music started to come out of, a lot of hip hop music started to come out of. So what was the sound that he was, instrumental in helping to shape?
So you have trap music, which talks about real gritty life. Not to say that that wasn't happening on either coast before, but the Southern experience was not being displayed. This is a rap hub. You have Houston, you have Memphis. I mean, these are Southern cities with very notable rap scenes. But Atlanta took off. It's the capital of the South. So Thug's sound, he took an emotional vulnerability, and sometimes he wasn't even saying words. And he was just emoting. It was just like onomatopoeias. And then other times it would be like sophomoric lyrics, like bodily function level lyrics. And other times he would bust out incredible poetry, put over really, really, really unique beats, and people ate it up.
So, Ben, even though I'm a hip hop fan, I have to confess, I feel like this is a little bit of a blind spot for me because I know the name, but if I had to pick out of a lineup, identify the song, I don't know if I could do like a Shazam of a Young Thug song. So maybe let's hear some and maybe it'll jog my memory of it.
Okay, Elahi. So why don't we play one of his most popular songs, a song he was featured on, and it was like the first moment for me that I was really like, oh man, this is Young Thug. It was like a breakout song for him. It came out in 2014. It was the song of my summer of 2014, and it's called Lifestyle.
Just live this here lifestyle. Came straight from the bottom to the top of my lifestyle.
Okay, Ben, you are like reciting this, like lip syncing it right now. I have to say, I feel like this is the sound that's been so ubiquitous over the past 10 years. Like, I don't think I can get away from this sound, what we just heard.
You're right. He popularized it. This is one way to do trap music. This song has been with us for a decade, and it really put Thug on the map, and it's so good.
And Ben, can you tell me more about the group that he created, YSL? Because I think this is related to the case, right?
So yeah, like I was saying, it's a rap group that he formed. Other members of the group include famous rappers like Gunna, but prosecutors in this case allege that it's not really a rap label, it's a Bloods-affiliated gang. They've been committing crimes for the better part of the last decade.
Tell me more about the specific crimes that Young Thug and his co-defendants are facing. And what are some of the things he's being accused of doing?
Thug was one of 28 people arrested in raids across the city of Atlanta back in May of 2022. That was 2 years ago. And he's been jailed without bond since then. The indictment accuses Thug of running a murderous gang under the guise of a record label. He's accused in a list of homicides, robberies, assaults, drug dealing, and other alleged crimes. Investigators also allege that Thug's lyrics about crimes and shooting were based in reality, that they weren't just art, that they're fact. Thug has pleaded not guilty and denied all the charges against him. And Thug's lawyers say the government is trying to silence a generational black artist, using the case so thin that the indictment needs to use his own lyrics as, quote, overt acts and furtherance of the conspiracy.
Ben, you mentioned that about 24 other people were arrested in those raids back in Atlanta in 2022. What do we know about those people?
Yeah, there are about 24 other people believed to be associated with Thug who were also indicted. All of them are at least charged with the RICO Act, which is a racketeering crime. And so the law was created to gather up mob activity, mafia activity, and charge people kind of by association. So very rarely, like in a mob movie, right, do you have the boss going like, I want you to whack that guy at that place in that corner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For RICO, you have to have been involved in a certain amount of crimes. And so one of the most notable things is prosecutors are alleging that Thug rented a car in 2015 that was used in a drive-by.
So like the connection implicates you. And I think a lot of people are now paying attention to RICO in Georgia because this is also what's being used in one of the cases against former President Donald Trump, right?
Yes, this is indeed not the only RICO case going on in Fulton County. There's also the Atlanta Forest Defenders, these group of demonstrators who are protesting the building of a police training facility, a massive police training facility in Atlanta that is on a very wooded, very important forested area. They're being charged under RICO. And to like go back, Fonnie Willis, who's the district attorney, who's decided it is, I need to be charging Donald Trump and Young Thug and these demonstrators. She ran the longest RICO case previous to this, which was the Atlanta Public Schools cheating scandal. She was the prosecutor on that case. She has said she's not afraid of running a long case. And she's showing that with these 3 massive RICO cases.
And it's interesting because I think based on what you're describing around RICO, that helps explain why some of these alleged crimes took place a while ago but are now just being tried now.
Right. You can wrap up all these crimes under the umbrella. That's the common term, like under the umbrella of this organization. And so a lot of the crimes that we're talking about don't have statute limitations anyway. But if you include all these things, the prosecutors say, need it to paint the full picture of the criminal enterprise.
So what are the specific charges that Young Thug is facing?
So to be clear, Thug is facing a RICO charge, and he's also facing a gang charge. He is not facing a murder charge or assault or any of those things. He's facing RICO and gang activity, both of which are serious charges, but neither are murder.
And who are some of the other people charged in this case?
Right, some of the other people are associates of YSL. Some of them are rappers, most famously Gunna, who took a plea deal.
And so what has Young Thug and his co-defendants said about these charges?
Yeah, there are so many defendants, so it's kind of a mixed bag. Thug maintains his innocence, but since the group is indicted, some have entered a plea deal, some are going to trial separately, and some are co-defendants with Thug right now in the current trial.
So after what sounds like a really long period of jury selection, the trial finally got underway in November, and that means this has all been going on for more than a year already, which, I don't know, that sounds like a very long time. Can you explain why it's taking so long and what's caused these delays?
Well, when you have this many attorneys for this many defendants, they can all raise their hand and say, I don't agree with what just happened. It's adversarial inherently, right? The prosecution and the defense. But usually when you see it in like a TV show, it's just one table versus one table. Here we have several tables versus one prosecutor's table. So it's very resource intensive if they want to file a motion that they don't agree with something, that evidence wasn't entered correctly. So it's a lot of administrative stuff. Plus, it's really complicated. The prosecution has hundreds of witnesses that they're putting forward. We're talking lab techs who have maybe never even heard of Young Thug, but just swabbed something, And then you have detectives who interviewed people at the scene of, a shooting. And then you have, yes, people who might have been involved. So the reason it's taken so long is the administrative stuff, but also there have been very chaotic moments in this trial.
Tell me about some of those chaotic moments.
Right. Well, one of the co-defendants being stabbed in jail.
Oh my gosh.
Right. He is alive, but that caused a pause on the trial as, he got well. When you have that many people in a room, in a tense room, things just get hectic. They're in and out of jail. We have one instance where one of the co-defendants was taken to the back, so they thought that he might have had weed on him. So they take him to the back, and they say, we have to strip search you. And he was like, I would rather you not. And they say, well, too bad. And so then there is body camera footage that was released via a local news outlet of them stripping his clothes off because he refused. And he's screaming. And then his co-defendants, his friends.
Like in the courtroom?
In a back room. And you can hear the screams.
Oh, while you're in the courtroom?
In the courtroom. And then everyone's looking around. Thug's like, what?
What's going on?
His head's darting around. And so some of the co-defendants try to go back there, and the deputies are like, no.
Oh, so this is like turning into a big...
It's a scene. It ended up that he allegedly had 2 bags of weed sewed into his underwear.
Okay.
And so they cleared the courtroom because the deputies did not want to lose control of this. It's all being live streamed. Yeah,
I mean, what's striking me about this is, thinking about this high-profile trial that involves so many people. It's almost like not just one trial. It's like 20 trials in one. And then it's being live streamed. And then you have people who are super famous at the heart of it. And it's a spectacle in one sense, right?
Yes. The YouTube comments are constantly streaming, he did it, he didn't do it, free Thug, I hate rap, whatever, the whole time. I mean, it's like an online spectacle, and like all the rap blogs are posting what every minute legal happening.
But beyond the spectacle, there are bigger stakes at play here, and beyond, the obvious implications for an individual's life, right?
Yes, whatever happens with these charges, we have implications of the use of lyrics, the use of art in prosecution. That's something that gets a lot of attorneys' attention. The First Amendment is a very well established legal doctrine. So what does that mean for the country writ large?
After the break, how Young Thug's lyrics are being used against him, and the precedent this case could set for other artists. We'll be right back. I want to talk more about the evidence that the prosecutors are using against Young Thug and his co-defendants, and specifically the lyrics. I know that that's not the only aspect of the evidence that's being introduced, but can you just talk me through what exactly the government's case is here in regards to the lyrics?
In the prosecution's perspective, the lyrics show that he was a kingpin of this criminal enterprise that went out and killed people and sold drugs in Fulton County. So prosecutors are saying that these words matter, that the words he uses are relevant. So a lot of times Thug will rap about push and pee. Prosecutors are saying that push and pee means that you're selling drugs. And Thug and his defense attorneys are saying it means pushing positivity.
It's called pushing P. And it's positivity. It means any circumstance you're in. If you think positively about something, you can make it through.
And they say, well, what does thug mean? What do the initials THUG means? What does that mean? And they're saying, oh, it means truly humble under God.
Thug meant and means to Jeffrey something very personal. It was his pact that he could ever make it as a musical artist and help his family, himself, and as many others out of this endless cycle of hopelessness. He would be truly humble under God. That's what thug means.
Oh, interesting. There's just this debate, it sounds like, in the courtroom as to what these lyrics mean and how they relate to this case.
Right, so prosecutors have also said that Young Thug is connected to the murder of Donovan Thomas, who's an alleged gang member, in 2015. Some of Thug's lyrics say, 100 rounds in a Tahoe.
Slick, slick. 100 rounds in a Tahoe. Lighting up your tacos. Hey, give him surgery.
And Thomas was standing next to a Chevy Tahoe when he was gunned down. Prosecutors allege that Thug rented the car that was used by the person who killed Thomas.
How is it that the prosecution can argue that the lyrics are fair game? Because I'm not a lawyer, but it's surprising to me to hear this, because there's a long history of not just rap music, but a lot of different genres of music, of people saying things in their songs, and it doesn't mean that they actually committed those crimes.
Right, I don't remember Johnny Cash getting charged for saying he shot a man in Reno just to watch him die, right? So why this? Well, a lot of experts say this is the only genre that gets held up on these charges. I wonder what makes this genre different from all the other ones, right? They're saying that this is unfairly targeting Black people, Black music, and their creative output.
But what's the prosecution's argument against that,
right,
or to that?
The prosecution is saying, well, it's not just the lyrics, that Thug and his co-conspirators are pushing out an image of themselves online and on social media that makes it seem like they're in gangs. For example, they'll throw up gang signs and pictures on Instagram, or they'll change words and captions and lyrics where words that start with C now start with B, which is a pretty telltale sign that someone's affiliated with the Bloods.
So do you think other rappers are concerned about the implications of this case and how it could affect what artists can say in their songs?
So I spoke to more than a few rappers, and I think they're struggling to believe that this could actually hamper their ability to speak freely. And so the truest thing I heard when I spoke to all of them was one rapper saying, no one's paying attention to this, but maybe we should be. They're not worried about it because it's hard to conceptualize that free speech would be not applicable to their art. And so people are not talking about it in the streets like, oh, we're not going to be able to say what we want to say, because honestly, it's hard to believe, but maybe it's something that they should be concerned about.
Ben, is there a history, though, of prosecutors using rap lyrics?
Totally. No, this has definitely happened before and a lot. We have 2 Live Crew back in the early 90s. We have Snoop Dogg. We have Mac Dre. We have tons of artists who have been held up on their expression. California notably created this law that restricts the use of rap lyrics in prosecution. And that's a big deal for a lot of West Coast artists.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder, Ben, about the takeaways of the effects of this trial on music, on hip-hop. As the case grinds on, what will you be looking to, and what do you think we should be paying attention to?
Me personally, I'm going to be looking at Thug to see how he's doing. This has affected his health and just keeping an eye on him as a human being. Other things to consider in the broader sense, I mean, what this could mean for Atlanta's rap scene. We don't know the lyrics that we might miss out on because there's a chilling effect. We don't know the art that we could miss because of this. The other thing to think about is this is someone with a lot of money to fight the law for his artistic expression. And for the normal person walking around, they don't have the money and the resources needed to fight against the state on something like this. So if they feel like their art is being infringed upon in a First Amendment sense, they're not going to have the resources that Young Thug has. And of course, this isn't the first time this has happened, but for this generation, this is their lyrics on trial case.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining and explaining all this to me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Ben Brash is a general assignment reporter for The Post. Before you go, I wanted to share some other stories that we're following today. There are primary elections going on in the U.S. right now. Voters are casting ballots in 4 states: Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, and Oregon. The Oregon race is especially important because voters today are choosing which Democrat and Republican will face off in November. And that's a highly competitive race that could determine which party controls the House next year. And a battle is brewing in the world of artificial intelligence. Actress Scarlett Johansson is threatening legal action against the AI startup OpenAI. She says that the company asked her to voice one of their new chatbots, and she refused their requests multiple times. But then the company released a demo of the technology.
It looks like you're feeling pretty happy and cheerful, with a big smile and maybe even a touch of excitement. Whatever's going on, it seems like you're in a great mood. Care to share the source of those good vibes?
Johansson told The Post in a statement that her closest friends thought it was actually her. A lot of people said it sounded like Johansson's character in the 2013 movie Her, where she performed the voice of a super intelligent AI assistant. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman told The Post that it wasn't Johansson's voice and that it, quote, was never intended to resemble hers. That's it for Post Reports. Thanks for listening. Today's show was produced by Sabi Robinson. It was mixed by Sean Carter and edited by Monica Campbell. Thanks to Martine Powers. And just a reminder, you only have until June 3rd to get that amazing subscription deal that I mentioned at the top of the show. So you might as well make good on it now. It's 99 cents for every 4 weeks. Subscribe now to lock in that rate for a full year. Just go to washingtonpost.com/subscribe. Like I said before, there's also a link in our show notes wherever you're listening. Thanks again. I'm Elahe Izadi. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories from the Washington Post.